So if you're skinny and you don't have much muscle and you've wanted to build a lot of muscle, most likely you've probably done a lot of like the bro bulking cycles, and you've eaten a lot of unclean food to add up the calories that you need. You need to probably eat 3,000-4,000 calories, right? Because you probably have a fast metabolism. I remember I was like that before. And I was doing that. I was doing the bro bulking, and I was putting on weight, but I was actually putting on a lot of excess fat. And ultimately, I didn't necessarily look like the specific type of person that I wanted to look like. And now what I realized, and what you need to realize, is it's very important to do lean bulking. Lean bulking is the best. I swear by it, right? I like body recomposition. I like being able to stay in a caloric deficit year round. But if I'm super skinny and I know I need to put on weight, I know I need to put on calories, I will start lean bulking. Now, what is lean bulking specifically, right? Lean bulking is basically being in a caloric surplus, but you're eating only clean foods. And you might be asking, Martel, it's really hard for me to eat clean foods if I'm lean bulking, right? Or if I'm bulking in general. I have to eat junk food. I have to go eat all of those empty calories. You don't have to do that, but you have to be very strategic with how you actually do the bulk that you're trying to do. And you have to do it in a lean way to where you don't hold excess fat on your body and you look aesthetic at the same time when you do put on the size that you want. So how do you go about this, right? First step you have to understand, be in a caloric surplus. Typically figure out what your calorie intake is, or caloric burn is, or what they call resting metabolic rate, right? See how many calories, your maintenance calories, actually. Your maintenance calories are the most important thing. See your maintenance calories, which for someone who's super skinny and scrawny, I would assume it's probably in the 3,000s, right? Some people on the extreme, it's 4,000 because they have super fast metabolism. Now you want to be able to increase your calories by 500 to 1,000 calories from that point. From the point of your maintenance calories, you increase your calories by 500 to 1,000 calories. Now, what's interesting about this, when you increase this, you're going to realize, well, shit, I need to eat a lot more. And that's completely true. And this is exactly what I did to be able to lean bulk my way into getting more mass, especially like when I was super, super skinny, because I was never fat. I was always super, super skinny. And I always tried all these different methods. So once I figured that out, I had to understand, well, okay, there are 3 macros, right? Specifically that people work on: carbs, proteins, and fats, right? Those are the 3. Very, very simple. Now, the reality is when you start to eat a lot of these artificial foods, a lot of these foods that, you know, are heavily processed, they combine a lot of these macronutrients together, and they have a lot of the empty calories in there as well that don't necessarily have any nutrient in it whatsoever. And so that's why they become high calorie meals. But what you need to do is actually figure out, okay, what are the whole foods I need to eat? Stick to a whole foods diet as best as you can, right? At least 6 days out of the week. The 7th day, which I'm going to tell you, you want to be able to eat whatever it is that you want, right? I always believe in balance. I always believe that, yes, you should have a clean diet, but you can also have the metabolism, you have the space to be able to consume the things that aren't necessarily healthy, right? And they will give you extra gains especially, but you want to be able to have more of like an 80-20 split or a 90-10 split where 80 to 90% of the time you're eating clean, 10 to 20% of the time you eat whatever it is that you want, whatever delicacies you like, right? That's why being skinny, it's actually hard. A lot of people think being skinny is easy to be able to, you know, be in shape. No, it's actually harder to build mass because your metabolism is running so fast. So once you get these 3 micronutrients, you want to figure out, okay, well, how many carbs do I need to eat? How many grams of carbs, how many grams of fats, and how many grams of protein? Now, the secret here, obviously always eat protein for the ideal size that you want to be, right? So if you're, let's say, 140 pounds and you want to get to 185, well, you should probably be eating between 170 to 185 grams of protein, right? Very, very simple to be able to have the protein to be able to build the muscle that you need. Now, the interesting part about this is how do you actually hit these calories? Because a lot of skinny people struggle with actually hitting their calories, their caloric intake. You want to double down on fats, right? Healthier fats. You have avocados, you have olive oil. You can drizzle olive oil on your food. You can do all kinds of these things because here's the thing. Fats have way more calories, a little bit more than double the calories than carbs and protein, right? Carbs and protein each have 4 calories per gram. Fats have 9 calories per gram, right? So you want to be able to tap into a lot more fats. This is literally what I did. I would consume a lot more fats, significantly more. That should probably be like 30% of your macros is carbs or is fats, right? The rest you can figure out, okay, how much protein do I need? If let's say you were 140, you want to get to 185, maybe you're going for 180 grams of protein, right? Now you have that. Now you have to figure out the rest of the amount of carbs that you need to be able to fit the entire amount of calories that you need, right? And so you want to be able to do this effectively if you are somebody who's skinny and looking to build more muscle. And then also when you train, your training needs to be a lot more heavier, right? You need to be lifting heavy weights. You should be pretty much lifting heavy weights up until failure, up until a certain point, to be able to really stimulate the muscle. Because it doesn't make sense for you to start lifting in high volumes, right? In high volume and not with the right intensity. I would rather you train with high intensity than training with low intensity, high volume, right? Because when your muscles are shocked, when you start to lift a lot heavier, you will start to build the density. Your muscles will start to build a lot more density, right? So you want to be able to have that as that training philosophy. That's my training philosophy for skinny guys, right? And I like to follow Mike Mentz's heavy duty training protocol, Mike Mentz's heavy duty training protocol. I've implemented this with clients who are skinnier. I've implemented this with myself and I've seen great results. So you want to be able to do your first 2 sets of an exercise, right? You want to do your first 2 sets of an exercise at medium weight, and you want to control the weight on the way down and push back up, right? So make sure your tempo is good. I would say 2 to 3 seconds down, 1 second explode back up, right? With all of the weights that you lift, and do this for the heavier side too. But that last set is pretty much your all out set, or they call the working set. And you basically want to hit 6 to 8 reps. And ideally you want to fail between those 6 to 8 reps. And once you do that, you'll be able to stimulate the muscle, because the more that you fail on these different exercises, the more that your muscle is going to grow, right? Because you're stimulating the muscle a lot more. And you keep that time under tension as well. Like I mentioned, you will literally be exploding in growth when it comes to actually training in the gym. Now, the kicker of this, your structure should initially start out, and this is what helped me the most, do full body 3 to 4 times a week. Literally do all and do compound lifts specifically. And this is where that Mike Mentzer kind of like strategy works, especially when you're doing like high impact lifts, when you're doing compound lifts, because they recruit more muscles in your body, right? So heavy squats, heavy bench, right? I prefer incline bench, heavy low rows, right? Bent over rows with the barbell, heavy overhead press with the barbell for your shoulders, right? Heavy barbell curls, right? For your actual biceps. When you want to do triceps, I would literally do just heavy pull downs, right? I would do those. I would do a lot of these. I would do pull-ups, right? I would actually do weighted pull-ups. I would put like a 45-pound plate pretty much in between my legs, or I would hang it off of me from the hanger, and I would do I would do as many reps as I possibly could until failure, right? And I would do 3 to 4 sets of that. But ideally, this is what you want to do. This is the structure that I've used. And you don't want to train too often. A lot of people, they struggle with the whole training thing because they go to the gym every single day and they don't see any gains. You want to be able to train 3 to 4 times a week and ideally have the rest, because you have to understand that your muscle breaks down when you train and your muscle actually repairs itself and grows bigger when you rest. Your rest is very, very important. So at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep is ideal for you. Use magnesium glycinate if you need to be able to sleep deeper, if you have less time to sleep and you want to have that deep sleep, that impactful sleep, to where you don't need to spend 8 hours to actually get into that deep sleep state, make sure that you're using creatine. Creatine is super, super important for guys who are like super scrawny, because it allows for that retention, the water retention in your muscles. Your muscles remain hydrated. You're good. And it also helps with just overall building size, right? But this is essentially the whole lean bulking strategy from a training perspective, from a nutrition perspective, from a supplement perspective. If you can implement at least 1 or 2 of these things, you will build a lot of muscle very quickly. And then let's say after the first month, you finish doing full body, you transition into an upper and lower split, right? And when you're doing these upper and lower splits, you want to be able to combine a compound movement like what I mentioned. And you also want to combine and by the way, deadlifts are compound exercises as well. Heavy deadlifts are really, really good. You want to combine that compound lift with an accessory lift. An accessory lift is essentially like some like lateral raises, right? Lateral raises are great accessory lifts. Anything that works smaller muscle groups, you want to be able to add that into an upper and lower split, right? And then from there, I would then finish off the final month with push-pull legs, right? And do the exact same strategy. This is ideal. If you can do all of this, I promise you, you will build muscle. Promise you. If you need help with that, link will be in the description if you want to apply to work with me on fitness, mindset, everything, almost being a multidimensional man in general, because that's essentially what I want for all of you guys, is to be multidimensional. Build the physique, build the essence, build the presence, right? Build your voice, build your income based on your identity, right? Build your mission, build all of these things to be a multidimensional man in the modern economy and be able to thrive. That's my ideal thing. If that's what you're interested in, link will be in the description to be able to apply for my one-on-one mentorship. I work with guys one-on-one every single week to help them. I put together a plan for them, make sure that they're accountable, make sure I give them the resources that I'll create for them to be able to actually learn a lot of these things quicker. This is going to accelerate your life 10x for sure, like guaranteed. So if that's something you're interested in, link will be in the description. I appreciate you. I hope this was helpful for you, and I'll catch you on the next video.